Welcome in, everybody. I'm Eric. This is John, and I think at this point John's a little jealous that maybe he's not out here taking some pictures of a really nice sunset.
Well, first of all, the sun's way over here over land, so it's okay. Now, if this were in June or July, I'd have a problem with being here right now.
Now, check this out. So you can pick up on. Oh, look at that. I'm doodling as I draw this.
That's good, though.
We're picking up on some of those lake effect snowflakes falling on the horizon. It is pretty to be able to pick that up.
Yeah, and those snow shafts that are coming down, as you can see, quite pronounced over the water there. Very impressive, no question.
More of this to come. We're at 26 degrees right now. Water temperatures, by the way, over Lake Ontario, roughly 10 degrees warmer than that. So if we can lose another 10 on this, you've got a big temperature difference and you get bigger snows. Set up right now with lake effect snow. We've got some light to moderate bursts. They go in and out pretty quick. None of this is a big deal. We're tracking them now just to the east of Riga. I think the drive along 90, just west of Henrietta, you're going to run into that. It's about a 10-minute pop. It's there and then it's gone. The more organized stuff is only now starting to get going. Look at this guy here. Yeah. And then you've got another almost linear appendage trying to get going just offshore. That's what we need to watch for getting into especially Wayne County tonight. Here's your housekeeping. Lake snow warnings kick in tonight through tomorrow afternoon for Wayne County. We've got winter weather advisories in effect for Monroe County, which technically includes Rochester. Remember, the advisories are the lower end of the spectrum. You're going to get some accumulation, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. The lake snow warning is reserved for the potential for significant accumulations. And I think one of the biggest things here tonight, John, is it's so cold. We're talking big giant flakes with really high snow ratio, so it's not going to be that hard to watch them pick up. And with those big flakes, I mean, you have seen those big flakes before, haven't you?
Yeah, I saw it this morning on the east side of Monroe County. We have some footage here, and I'm always looking at the radar. I shot this part in slow motion, and you could look at how big those snowflakes are as a lake effect band was lining up on the east side of Monroe County, just a couple miles from the Wayne County border, and the backdrop of one of my favorite barns ever, this 1830s dairy farm back in the day. But Eric, those flakes were huge here.
And you know what does that? They combine.
It's amazing.
If you look at them closely, they do. That's exactly what they do. You can have 10 or 15 of these that make it look like one big giant snowflake, but they're all just clinging together.
And this is real speed here, and it was coming down pretty good. And then as soon as it was falling, maybe 5 minutes later, it eased up, it stopped, and then it would reemerge. It was doing this for about an hour's time this morning, and always a beautiful scene with the Red Barn at your service.
Isn't that just how lake effect works?
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to kind of watch on radar to see where it's going to set up and really dump on you.
Fun for you.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Till you have to wake up tomorrow and realize that the snow totals are anywhere, you know, from an inch to 12 inches, and you got to justify that. So the models here are doing a decent job on picking up on this. What we just showed you on radar, this is a slight wind shift that's going to realign these bands. There it goes. Now you're starting to understand why Wayne County especially is probably ground zero for some of the highest accumulations. 2:30 in the morning, we're still looking at this primary band. It's clipping the lakeshore areas of northern Monroe.
Soda's Point, going to get it good.
Getting inland into a north and northeast Wayne County. I don't know what I did there.
This shows the technology that you have, all the folders that go into this.
Hold on. I'll do the only way that I know how out of this. At least the only way I think I know how. Wait for it. There we go.
Excellent.
Got it back up. You got to watch where I'm pointing here. So the concern tomorrow morning for areas like Rochester, for example, for the morning commute, this line, and folks in Buffalo know this well, when you get that streamer off of Lake Erie, if that wind is not almost due west to east, if you get any northerly component to it, what does it do to that line? It starts to push it southward. That's what will eventually happen here, and you see the wind barbs now, more of a northerly component. At some point early tomorrow morning, this organized burst of snowfall will go from the lakeshore areas and just slowly sag south, so everybody gets a burst of snow out of that. But thankfully, it's moving quick enough that it's hard to imagine that it would dump a ton of snow. Now, that all being said, projected snowfall accumulations out of this. There will be parts of you, or the area that are watching this right now that probably don't get much. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning and it's going to look about like what it does now. I would watch initially here north of Rochester, so we'll say right along the lake shore of Monroe County. I could see a few inches falling there, maybe as high as 3 to 6 where the squalls persist. The big snows, the ones where you're capable of a half a foot, maybe upwards of a foot of fluffy snow, northern and northeast Wayne County, we think is the highest chance of that happening. But we all know how this works with lake effect. We have to get those bands to park. if they end up fluttering around and moving, more people get snow, but you really cut down on the accumulations in any one given spot. In terms of travel tomorrow morning, and that's really what we want to focus with this, is what's the impact going to be. We want to highlight some of the spots and some of the roadways, more importantly, that you might want to consider not necessarily avoiding, but if you're going to be taking those roads, you need to know it's going to be slow, and perhaps you've got a better route that takes you out of these. The chief area of concern to me is going to end up being along that 104 corridor into Wayne County.
Always is, seemingly,
it always
with this
is.
stuff.
And these folks know this is usually where it goes. They know how to drive in it, so...
not everybody. I can attest to that.
I was trying to be nice with that part.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, to your point here, look at 104 can be tricky when it's just a few flurries out. But when you're waking up and it's still dark and people have to be at work at 6 a.m.
Correct.
And you're driving on that, it is downright dangerous.
And there's a chance that this snow band is no longer parked over the 104 corridor by tomorrow morning. But the issue is it will have been there for many hours prior to that. So the concern is going to be you could have 6, 10, 12 inches of snow already on the ground. And at that point, you care very little if it's still actively snowing. It's going to be tricky. Most of Wayne County, I would suggest tomorrow morning, expect that there's going to be some issues. Expect that it's going to be slow. As you get back into Monroe here, I would just watch some of the lakeshore areas. If you live in the north side of Greece, Charlotte, I think folks in Webster, they're typically involved in that west-northwest flow too. There'll be some slowdowns there. For the rest of the area, Rochester, points south and points west, there will be some snow through tomorrow morning's commute. But it's tough to imagine that this is going to be a big-ticket affair for them. It's wild that we have to draw a graphic where you can go from nothing to all of that, and we're talking what, 20, 30 miles?
Yeah, it's going to be entertaining, and I'll give a shout out right now to the Wayne County crews. They're as good as anybody out there for snow removal, but by what I'm seeing here, especially that 3, 4, 5 a.m. range, it may be accumulating faster than they can keep up with, so just factor that in.
And I do think there is going to be an element of that. I could see with how cold it is, we could have snowfall rates of 2 inches an hour. You know, you might get some local bursts that are higher than that.
Wow.
And no matter how good the crews are at that point, it's just impossible to keep up with that. Nice thing about this forecast, if you don't like snow. Friday, the sun comes back out. We're back to near freezing. I've got sunshine still Saturday, Sunday. That pattern is locked in, I think. High pressure is there. We're up to 40 on Saturday, 44 on Sunday. John, the pattern emerging to close out February and to welcome March, every piece of evidence that I have now seen is suggesting not only us, but most of the United States are going to go much colder. It does look like we are finally getting in on this, what could be a relatively extended stretch of colder than normal weather.
Wait. You didn't come telling me about this?
I didn't run in.
You didn't get me all excited about this?
or telegraph any of this. But that is where the evidence is pointing to right now. Now, how much of that translates to snow here? Those are sometimes two separate entities. Cold air can be cold air without moisture. You need cold air and moisture, but half the battle does appear to be there by the end of the month into March.
It does sound like, based on what you're saying, cold air
now look at this guy coming
mixed in with warm lake water means a lot of that.
You guys still talking snow over here?
Of course we are, James. Come on. There he is. Best smile on Rochester TV and the internet as well.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was going to go out.
He's got his sleeves rolled up, ready to get hunkered down, right? In the elements.
We said lake effect snow. He just pops in. It's like magic.
Yeah, you know what? I hear lake effect snow warning, and I gotta have a little bit of a say. So
it's all good.
We're waiting, right? Tomorrow morning.
We're waiting.
Yeah, and we were talking big picture looking into March, too.
I held off on telling
He didn't
that,
tell
by
me
the way.
this.
The cold that appears to be coming in the next couple of weeks.
Stuff on our website about that.
Yep, James got an article all about that. So, yeah, it is out there. We'll see how it plays out, however. We will be seeing you in about 15 minutes. News at 5. On behalf of all three of us, we'll see you then.
Take care. You're going to get a talent fee for that.